After fixing a flooded basement at 2 a.m., my knuckles raw and dripping, I staggered upstairs to find my stuff in a garbage bag and Jen's cold stare. "You're out," she said. Derek smirked, tossing my truck keys. "Hit the road, stray." I'm Matt, 29, and I've been a carter since I was 6, adopted after years of bouncing through foster homes like a pinball. My hands still smell like motor oil after a double shift at the auto shop. 16 hours straight, hunched over engines, my shoulder screaming from wrestling a rusted transmission out of a beat-up Ford. It's 2 a.m. when I finally clock out, my boots heavy with exhaustion, and my phone buzzes in my pocket. It's a text from Jen, my adoptive sister, 34, who's been riding my ass since Mom and Dad died 2 years ago. "Basement's flooding. Fix it. Now." "No, please. No, hope you're okay." Just her usual bark. I groan, but I grab my toolbox and drive 40 minutes through a downpour, wipers slapping rain off my windshield, to the house we grew up in. It's ours now, or so I thought. The garage door creaks open, and I slog downstairs, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. Water's pooling under the stairs, cold and murky, soaking my jeans up to my ankles. I find the culprit, a busted pipe, spraying like a pissed-off sprinkler. My shoulder throbs as I kneel, wrench slipping on wet metal, scraping my knuckles raw. Blood mixes with the grime on my hands, but I patch it, twisting until the drip stops. It's sloppy, but it'll hold till morning. I'm soaked, shivering, my back knotted from hunching in that cramped space. All I can think is crashing on the couch upstairs, maybe getting a thanks from Jen for once. She's always been prickly, called me the spare parts kid growing up, but I figured she'd appreciate this. I drag myself up the stairs, dripping like a drowned rat, toolbox clanging against my leg. I'm dead on my feet, but I fixed it. That's gotta count for something, right? Turns out I couldn't have been more wrong. I stumble up from the basement, water squishing in my boots, my shoulder stiff as a board from the pipe job. The house is quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the faint patter of rain outside. I'm picturing the couch, 5 steps away, when I turn the corner and freeze. Jen's standing there, arms crossed, her blonde hair pulled tight in a bun that makes her look sharper than usual. She's holding a black garbage bag, bulging at the seams, and before I can open my mouth, she shoves it into my chest. "You're out," she says, voice flat as asphalt. "This isn't your house anymore." I blink, brain sluggish from exhaustion, waiting for the punchline. Then I see it, my old Spider-Man comics spilling out the top, the leather jacket Dad got me when I turned 16, even the faded yellow envelope with my adoption papers. This isn't a joke. I look past her, and there's Derek, her sleazy boyfriend, sprawled on the couch like he owns the place. He's twirling my spare shop keyring around his finger, smirking like a cat that caught a mouse. My stomach drops. "Jen, what the hell?" I manage, voice cracking. She doesn't flinch, just points to the door. "You've been leeching off me long enough, Matt. Time to go." Leeching? I've been paying half the utilities since Mom and Dad passed, keeping this place running while she blows cash on God knows what. I try to step around her, to at least grab a dry shirt, but she blocks me, eyes hard as nails. Derek chuckles, tossing my truck keys at my feet. "Take your junk and hit the road, kid," he says. Kid. Like I'm not a grown man who just spent an hour fixing their mess. I'm too stunned to yell, too tired to fight. I grab the bag, the plastic slick against my wet hands, and stumble outside. The rain's slowed to a drizzle, but it soaks the bag as I stand there, staring at the front door, my front door. I hear the deadbolt click, loud as a gunshot in the stillness. Through the window, I catch Jen turning away, Derek's arm slinking around her shoulder. My keys glint on the porch where they landed, and I bend to pick them up, the scrape on my knuckles reopening, blood trickling down my wrist. I don't know how long I stand there, the bag sagging at my feet, but it feels like forever, like the ground's caving in and I'm just falling. I finally drag myself to my truck, toss the bag in the passenger seat, and climb in. The cab smells like oil and old coffee, but it's all I've got left. I drive aimlessly, ending up in the empty lot of a 24-hour gas station, the neon sign buzzing overhead. I cut the engine, lean back, and feel it hit me. Not just the cold seeping through my damp clothes, but the betrayal, sharp and deep. Jen's always had it out for me, ever since Mom and Dad brought me home. I was the stray they picked up, the one she never wanted in her perfect little family picture. But this, kicking me out after I busted my ass for her, in the house they left us both, it's a knife in the ribs, twisted slow. I curl up across the bench seat, the bag of my life crumpled beside me, and try to sleep. The rain taps the roof like it's mocking me, and I know this is just the start of something uglier than I ever imagined. For nights in my truck, and I'm a ghost of myself. The gas station lots my new address, the hum of fluorescent lights my lullaby. I wake up each morning with my shoulder locked up, a dull ache from that basement pipe job that feels like a lifetime ago. My clothes are stiff with dried sweat and floodwater, and I've got $30 left after Jen cleaned out our joint account. $1, $200 I'd scraped together for new shop tools. Gone in a blink. I check my banking app on my cracked phone screen, hoping it's a glitch, but it's real. Zero balance, plus a credit card maxed out with charges I didn't make. $800 at some boutique Jen loves. My hands shake as I shove the phone back in my pocket, the scabs on my knuckles cracking open again. Work's a nightmare. I roll in Monday, still in yesterday's shirt, and find my toolbox missing from the shop bay. My stomach lurches. I spent years building that kit socket by socket. Then I see it. A text from Derek, timestamped Saturday, with a photo of my tools in his garage. Figured you owed us. He writes, like it's a joke. I storm to my boss, Dave, to explain, but he's already pissed. Says I'm liable for the loss since I gave out my spare key. I didn't give it, Jen did. Doesn't matter. He docks my next paycheck $300 to cover it. And I swallow the words burning my throat because I can't afford to lose this job. I spend the day rebuilding carbs with borrowed tools. Every clank a reminder of what they've taken. My coworkers stare, whispering, and I feel like a kicked dog slinking back to its corner. By Thursday, I'm unraveling. I've been washing up in truck stop sinks, cold water stinging my raw hands, brushing my teeth with a finger and a travel tube of toothpaste. My reflection in the chipped mirror looks hollow, dark circles, stubble, eyes red from sleepless nights. I can't keep this up. I call Pete, a guy from the shop who's always been decent, and mumble something about needing a place to crash. He doesn't pry, just says, "Get over here." His apartment's a cramped one-bedroom, and his couch sags like it's older than me, but it's a lifeline. I collapse on it that night, the lumpy cushions digging into my back, and stare at the ceiling. Pete's TV drones in the background. Some cop show, but all I hear is Jen's voice from that night. "You're not family." It loops in my head, cutting deeper each time. She's right. I've never been a Carter to her, just a burden she's finally dumped. I try to sleep, but the weight of it all crushes me. Losing the house, the money, my tools, my dignity. I think about calling her, begging for an explanation, but what's the point? She's made her move and I'm the collateral damage. My chest tightens, a mix of despair and something hotter, sharper. I picture Derek's smirk, Jen's cold stare, and my fists clench against the scratchy blanket Pete tossed me. I'm at the bottom, scrabbling in the dirt, but that heat's growing, anger, maybe, or the first spark of something stubborn. I don't know what's next, but lying here, surrounded by the faint smell of Pete's burnt popcorn, I know I can't stay broken. They've taken everything they could carry, but I'm still here, breathing. And that's gotta mean something. Lying on Pete's couch, the hum of his fridge cutting through the silence. I can't stop the memories from clawing their way up. I've been blind, haven't I? Jen's resentment wasn't new. It's been simmering since the day Mom and Dad brought me home. A scrawny 6-year-old with a garbage bag of clothes, not unlike the one she threw at me last week. I see it now. The time she accidentally sold my guitar. The one Mom got me for my 12th birthday, at a garage sale, claiming she thought it was junk. Or the way she'd smirk when Dad called me son. Her eyes saying I'd never be a real Carter. After they died, she'd dominate every talk about the inheritance, cutting me off when I dared mention the house. I chalked it up to grief, to her being the big sister who knew better. I was wrong. It was a campaign, slow and steady, to erase me. I sit up, the couch springs creaking, and rub my face. My hands still ache from that busted pipe, a reminder of how I'd run to her rescue, thinking it'd earn me a scrap of respect. Instead, she used it to kick me when I was down. All those years, I'd clung to the good stuff, her teaching me to ride a bike in the driveway, her laugh when we'd prank Dad with water balloons. I'd built a whole story in my head about us being family, despite the barbs, despite the distance. But family doesn't lock you out in the rain, doesn't steal your tools and your savings, doesn't call you a leech while they're living off your sweat. Jen's not just ungrateful. She's been waiting for this, biding her time to shove me out of the picture. Pete shuffles in, bleary-eyed, and tosses me a beer. "You look like hell, man," he says, slumping into a chair. What's the plan? Plan? I've been too busy drowning to think about one. But his question lights something in me. I crack the can open, the hiss loud in the dim room, and take a long sip. I'm done begging. I say more to myself than him. She doesn't get to win this. Pete nods, like he's been waiting for me to say it. He's right. I've been a punching bag too long, taking her hits because I thought I owed her, because I thought that's what family does. No more. That spark from last night, the one buried under the despair, flares up. It's not just anger, it's clarity. Jen spent years chipping away at me, and I let her because I didn't want to see the truth. But now I do. She's not my sister, not in any way that matters. This isn't about losing a home. It's about losing the lie I've been living. I set the beer down, my mind racing. I don't know how yet, but I'm gonna fight back. I've got nothing left to lose, and that makes me dangerous. For the first time in days, I feel something solid under me. Not just Pete's lumpy couch, but a resolve I didn't know I had. Jen thinks she's broken me. She's about to find out she's wrong. A week into crashing at Pete's, I'm sipping burnt coffee at a greasy diner when Jen's ex-friend Tara slides into the booth across from me. She's twitchy, eyes darting like she's afraid someone's watching. I shouldn't be here, she mutters, twisting a napkin into knots. But I can't keep quiet anymore. I lean forward, the resolve from last night still buzzing in my veins. Tara's been on the edges of our family since high school, always at Jen's side until they fell out over Derek last year. Spit it out, I say, sharper than I mean to. She flinches, then drops the bomb. Jen's been trashing you to everyone. Mom's cousins, Dad's old buddies, me. Saying you're a freeloader, a nobody who lucked into the family. She's been planning to ditch you since your folks died. My jaw tightens, but I nod for her to keep going. That basement flood? She faked it. Dumped buckets down there to drag you out in the middle of the night. Said it'd wear you down, make you easier to push out. I sit back, coffee forgotten, my pulse thudding in my ears. It's not just betrayal, it's a goddamn conspiracy. Tara's words slot into place like a wrench on a bolt, tightening the picture I've been too stubborn to see. Jen didn't just snap. She engineered this, knowing I'd run myself rag to help. Why tell me now? Ask. Tara shrugs. Guilty. She bragged about it at a barbecue last month. Thought it was funny. I didn't say anything then, but seeing you at the gas station the other day, looking like death, I couldn't sleep. I don't thank her. It's too late for that, but I file it away. Evidence. Intent. She's given me something to work with. That afternoon, I'm on Pete's laptop, scrolling through legal aid sites, when I call a lawyer he recommended, Carla, a no-nonsense woman with a voice like gravel. I spill the basics, the eviction, the fake flood, the drained account. She cuts in, the house. Who's on the deed? I hesitate. It's ours, I guess. Dad left it to our kids in his will. Carla's quiet for a beat, then says, bring me that will. Now. I dig through the garbage bag Jen tossed me, find the crumpled envelope with my adoption papers, and there it is, a copy of the will, tucked inside. I meet Carla at her office, a cramped room stacked with files, and she scans it, her pen tapping the desk. Well, I'll be damned, she says, a grin cracking her stern face. Your dad named you Matthew James Carter, as a full heir, not just Jen. House is half yours. Maybe more if she's been screwing with it. I stare at her, the words sinking in slow. Half mine. Not just a pity share, but legal, binding. Jen's been strutting around like she owns it all, but she's wrong. Dad made sure I belonged. Carla keeps talking. Something about joint tenancy, inheritance laws, but I'm stuck on that line in his shaky handwriting. To our kids, Jennifer and Matthew. My throat burns, not with tears, but with something fiercer. That spark from Pete's couch, that clarity, it's hardening now, turning into a blade. Jen thinks she's cut me out, but she's misread the board. I've got a claim, a foothold, and Tara's confession to back it up. What's next? I ask Carla. She leans forward, eyes glinting. We fight, and we win. For the first time in weeks, I believe it. Carla's office becomes my war room over the next 2 weeks. I'm there every night after work, grease still under my nails, poring over papers with her. We start with the bank statements, printouts I snag from the library showing Jen siphoning that $1,200 from our joint account into hers, plus a dozen cash withdrawals I never made. Carla's got a hawk's eye, spotting a $5,000 transfer dated 3 days after Mom's funeral. What's this? She asks, jabbing the line. I squint, then remember. Dad's old Chevy. The one he'd promised me for my first job. Jen sold it, told me it was scrapped for parts. My gut twists. She pocketed it. Another piece of my inheritance snatched while I was grieving. Carla scribbles a note, muttering, "Theft. We'll nail her on that." I dig deeper, pulling texts from my phone. Jen's curt "fix it" from the flood night. My ignored pleas after she locked me out. Tara's confession about the fake flood's gold. But we need more. I sneak onto Jen's public Instagram from Pete's laptop. And there it is. Pics of her and Derek in the house. New leather couch. A shiny dirt bike in the garage. Captions brag about upgrading our space. I screenshot everything, my jaw tight. My money funded that. Then Carla calls with a bombshell. Jen took out a $10,000 home equity loan last month, using the house as collateral. "Your name's on the docs," she says. "But that signature ain't yours." I stare at the forged scrawl, a sloppy imitation of my Lou PM. Fraud. She's not just stealing. She's tying me to debt I never agreed to, betting I'd stay too beaten to notice. We build the case like a machine, every gear locking into place. I track down the shop's security footage from the day Derek swiped my toolbox. Blurry, but it's him, keyring in hand, loading it into his beat-up Jeep. Carla gets a statement from Dave, confirming I didn't authorize it. I cancel the joint card Jen maxed out, freeze my credit, and open a new account with my next paycheck. $200, all I've got left after the docked pay. It's a start. Pete chips in, driving me to the courthouse to file a claim for my half of the house, plus damages. "You're a bulldog now," he says, grinning as I sign the forms. I don't feel like one. Just a guy clawing his way back from nothing. Nights are for planning. I lie on Pete's couch, mapping it out. Jen spending my cash on Derek's toys while I'm eating ramen in a borrowed t-shirt. But those screenshots are dynamite. Proof she's living large on stolen funds. Carla says the loan's the clincher. Forgery's a felony, and the bank's already sniffing around. I imagine Jen's face when she realizes I'm not gone. Not broken. Just biding my time. She thinks I'm still shivering in my truck. Too dumb to fight. Wrong. I've been scrapping my whole life. Foster homes, shop floors, this family that never wanted me. I know how to take a hit and keep swinging. Carla's final call comes late, her voice crackling with excitement. "Got the title records. House is joint tenancy, your dad's will holds up. She can't sell or borrow against it without you, but she did. We're filing tomorrow. Eviction notice, fraud charges, the works." I hang up, staring at the ceiling. That blade of resolve from the diner now razor sharp. Jen's built her castle on lies, thinking I'd stay buried. But I've got the will, the proof, the law, and a hell of a lot of anger to back it up. She's about to learn what happens when you kick a stray too hard. Sometimes it turns into a wolf. Tomorrow we strike, and I'm not just taking my house back. I'm taking everything she thought she'd won. It's 8 a.m. when Carla and I pull up 3 houses down from mine, my truck idling as we wait. My heart's hammering, a steady thud against my ribs, but I'm steady, sharper than I've been in weeks. The sheriff's SUV rolls in right on time, parking in the driveway where Derek's Jeep sits, waxed and gleaming from that $10,000 loan. Carla nods and we step out, the morning air crisp, my boots crunching gravel. I hang back, letting the sheriff take the lead. Carla's orders, keep it clean. Through the front window I see movement. Jen in a bathrobe, hair a mess, Derek shirtless, sprawled on that new couch. The sheriff knocks, loud and firm, and I watch the door crack open. Jen's there, squinting. Then her eyes widen as he hands her a thick stack of papers. I step closer, just enough to hear. "You've got 48 hours to vacate," the sheriff says, voice flat. "Court order." Jen snatches the documents, scanning them, and I see the exact moment it hits. Her head snaps up, spotting me by the mailbox. Her mouth twists, and she storms onto the porch, robe flapping. "This is my house, Matt. You can't do this," she yells, waving the papers like they'll change the facts. Derek lumbers out behind her, chest puffed, glaring at me. "What's this crap, huh?" he barks, stepping toward me. The sheriff's hand drops to his belt, a warning, and Derek freezes. Carla moves in, calm as steel. "It's joint tenancy, Jennifer. Matt's on the deed, half his per your dad's will. You've been squatting on his share, committing fraud with that loan, theft with his accounts. It's over." Jen's face goes red, then white. "Fraud? I'll call the cops," she screeches. The sheriff raises an eyebrow, he is the cops, and points to the order. Carla lays it out, The $5,000 from Dad's Chevy, the drained $1,200, my toolbox in Derek's garage, the forged loan docs. Every word's a hammer, backed by bank records, texts, screenshots I'd spent nights compiling. Derek snarls, "You're a liar, punk," and lunges again. But the sheriff grabs his arm, twisting it back. "Settle down, or you're in cuffs," he snaps. Derek backs off, muttering curses, and Jen switches gears. Tears welling up, voice shaking. "Matt, please, we're family. Where am I supposed to go?" I stare at her, silent, letting her flail. "Family? She lost that claim when she locked me out. I can't hold it all in. You've got 48 hours. I say, voice low, locking eyes with Derek. "Leave my toolbox, or it's going to the dump with the rest of your trash." Jen sobs louder, clutching the papers, but I see through it. Same act she pulled when Dad caught her sneaking cash from his wallet years ago. Derek spits on the grass, calling me a pathetic wannabe Carter. And I almost laugh. Wannabe? Dad named me in ink. More than Jen ever earned with her lies. The sheriff warns them. No damage, no taking fixtures. Everything stays, legally mine now. Carla shakes my hand as we walk back to my truck, the weight lifting off my chest like a rusted hood popping free. By noon, my phone's buzzing. Jen's number, over and over. I let it ring, watching the missed calls climb to 15, then 20. Texts roll in. "You're ruining my life. We can fix this? I'm sorry, okay?" I forward them to Carla, who'd warned me to keep my distance. By night, it's 39 messages. Anger melting into panic. Pleas for me to call. I don't. I block her. The silence sweeter than any apology she could fake. Pete slaps my back at his place, cracking a beer. "You did it, man," he says, and I nod, feeling the ground solid under me for once. The house is mine again, half at least, but enough to stand on. Jen and Derek thought they'd crushed me, but they misjudged the stray they kicked. I'm not just taking back what's mine. I'm rewriting the story they thought they'd finished. Tomorrow, they're out, and I'm stepping back into the life they tried to steal. 48 hours later, I'm back in the house, key turning in the lock like it's waking up an old friend. Carla's with me, clipboard in hand, as we step inside. The air's stale, thick with the smell of takeout containers Jen didn't bother to trash. The living room's a war zone, scratches on the hardwood from dragged furniture, a fist-sized hole in the drywall by the stairs. Upstairs, Dad's old armchair sits in the corner of my room, slashed across the back, stuffing spilling out like guts. My throat catches. It was his favorite, where he'd read me comics when I was a kid. Jen didn't just leave. She lashed out, a final middle finger on her way out. Carla snaps photos, muttering about damages for the fraud case, but I just stand there, taking it in. It's a mess, but it's mine again. I find my toolbox in the garage, dented but intact. Derek didn't dare take it after my threat. The new couch stays, the dirt bike's gone, probably pawned. Pete shows up an hour later, pizza box and beers in hand, and we sit on the floor, planning fixes. "Roof first," he says. "Then that chair. Maybe reupholster it." I nod, the ache in my chest easing. This isn't victory. Not yet. Just a breath after months of drowning. Carla calls that afternoon. The bank's investigating the forged loan, and Jen's facing charges. Felony fraud, theft, the works. She's scrambling, Carla says. No lawyers touching her with this evidence. I picture Jen pacing somewhere, Derek sulking beside her, and feel a cold satisfaction settle in. Tara texts me later, a heads up from the family grapevine. Jen and Derek are crashing with her cousin Mike, but he's already fed up. Kicked them out after Derek trashed his bathroom in a tantrum. The bike got repossessed yesterday, Tara says, and Jen's begging for cash no one's giving. They're unraveling, thread by thread, while I'm here, piecing my life back together. I sweep the floors that night, the broom scraping over Jen's spiteful marks, and it's like I'm brushing her out of my story. The hole in the wall, the slashed chair. They're scars, sure, but I can fix them. I've got time, a paycheck, and Pete's crew offering to pitch in on weekends. Real family, not the kind that cuts you loose. Sleep comes easier now, on a mattress I dragged to my old room, the slashed armchair watching over me like a battered guardian. I wake to sunlight through the blinds, not a truck cab's glare, and it hits me. I'm home. Not whole, not yet, but close. Jen's chaos is hers to drown in. I'm done carrying it. I spend the day hauling out her trash, literal and leftover, and every bag I toss feels lighter. The anger's still there, a low simmer, but it's fuel now, not a cage. Tara's last text said Jen's blaming me, screaming to anyone who'll listen that I ruined her. Let her yell. The truth's in the deed, the will, the life I'm rebuilding. She swung hard, missed, and knocked herself down. Me? I'm standing taller than she ever thought I could. A week after moving back, I'm sanding the scratched hardwood when the doorbell buzzes. It's Sam, my cousin. Jen's too. Shifting on the porch, hands stuffed in his pockets. He's got that hangdog look I know too well, the one I wore crashing at Pete's. Can we talk? He asks, voice low. I let him in and he paces, spilling it. Jen and Derek are holed up at his place now, after Mike booted them. She's a wreck, man. Taking my grocery money, crying all day. Derek's worse. Smashed my TV when I told him to pitch in. I lean on the broom, listening. Sam's always been soft, the peacemaker who believed Jen's sob stories. Now he's trapped, and he's here because he saw me climb out of the same hole. I need out, he says, eyes red. Seeing you fight back. It's why I came. I don't owe him, not after he stayed quiet while Jen spun her lies. But I get it. Fear's a hell of a leash. I grab my phone, call a counselor I've been seeing since the eviction. A gruff guy named Tom who's helped me untangle the mess Jen left in my head. Sam's skeptical, but I push. You're not her doormat. Take the number. He does, and by night, Tom's got him a spot at a cheap rental, a buddy's spare room. Pete swings by, and we load Sam's essentials into his truck. Clothes, a lamp, no trace of Jen's chaos. Sam hugs me, quick and awkward, muttering, Thanks, Matt. Didn't think you'd help after everything. I shrug. You're not her. I'm in Dad's workshop later, welding a new frame for that slashed armchair, sparks flying like tiny stars. The house still needs work. Roof's next, but it's mine, scars and all. Jen's out there, falling apart, and I'm here, stronger than I was when she tossed me out. Sam texts at dusk. He's settled, and Jen's pissed, screaming at Derek after he pawned her last jewelry to eat. Mike's tale loops back through Tara. Derek ditched Jen yesterday, left her with nothing, and she's got no one left to bleed dry. Karma's a slow grind, but it's thorough. I sip a beer on the porch, watching the sky burn orange, and feel the last of that simmer cool. I'm free, not just from her, but from the kid who thought he had to prove he belonged. Dad's will said it. I do. Jen's bridge didn't just burn. It's ash. I'm standing tall now, and that's enough. Thank you for watching the video. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts below. Your like may seem small, but it gives me the strength to keep creating every single day. See you in the next video.